Hola, welcome to Season 3 of More Than Rice and Beans, the Mother Son podcast where we introduce you to our favorite Latinx creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs.
I'm Miguel, a mechanical engineer PhD student at Johns Hopkins University, funded by a NASA fellowship.
And I'm his mom, Tania. I'm a chef, educator, and proud Nuyorican.
This season on More Than Rice and Beans, we've got, well, a lot more for you. More amazing guests, more ridiculous sidebar conversations, and more meaningful discussions on what it's like to navigate this world as a Latinx person.
We're so excited you're joining us for this incredible season, along with our all-star lineup of guests. Get ready, because this time it's way more than rice and beans. Welcome back to More Than Rice and Beans. We're so happy to have you all here with us.
And if you remember the absolute grip that HBO's Def Jam Poetry held over our country in the early 2000s, you'll instantly recognize our guest's name.
And if not, all you need to know is that he's more talented than any other person has the right to be. Flaco Navaja is a singer, poet, actor who has traveled the world performing for audiences in not one language, but two languages. He recently released his first single and has appeared in television and films for over a decade. We're so excited to welcome the incredible Flaco Navaja to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I think the first question that I have to ask you, being that you're a singer, poet, and actor, is when someone asks you what you do for a living, what do you actually tell them?
I tend to say all three. Yeah. It depends also on the environment. Sometimes I would switch hats, but yeah, I tend to say I'm an actor and a singer, and then I'll throw in a poet.
And I feel like a lot of your work, you seem to kind of meld them together in a way, which I think is really cool and interesting. So if anything, you should say that you're all of them at once. You're not like each one individually.
I can dig it.
And then, like, going to that, did you always actively work towards each one? Did you always think that you want to be one and then the others just came about, or you just wanted to do all of them?
That's a great question. I think initially I wanted to be a singer. I've always wanted to be a singer. I've always wanted to sing. And I did not grow up in an environment where a lot of my colleagues may have. Like, I didn't grow up in Christian church, where a lot of my musician friends, that's where they learned music. I didn't go to a music school or an art-based school. So I always wanted to sing, and any opportunity I could get to sing, I took. So when I discovered spoken word poetry, it became a vehicle that allowed me to sing in front of people, if that makes any sense. So my older brother, Hector Luis Rivera Jr., was the first spoken word artist that I was exposed to at a young age. And he exposed me to the Nuyorican poetry movement. And it was the first time I heard poetry that I could relate to, that spoke my language, that was about people that looked like me and then had similar experiences. And that first poem that I heard him recite is called Puerto Rican Obituary by the Reverend Pedro Pietri. And it just opened up my world to a new form of a form of expression that didn't have restrictions. So to backtrack a little, I, at that point in my life, wanted to rap. So, like, I was writing these rhymes, but it would take forever for me to finish a verse because I was so kind of like meticulous about it. And I felt like it needed to be a certain way. And when I discovered spoken word and realized that I can tell stories without having the restrictions of a rhyme pattern and a rhythm pattern, that really just was like, boom, opened it up. And then it was also like I said, it was an opportunity. It was a microphone. So you gave me a stage and a microphone. I was going to take it and milk it for what it was worth. So that was kind of how my style of performance was born. It was out of the for lack of better words, necessity to sing. So I didn't have access to a band. So I would do open mics and start with singing some a cappella piece of a Hector Lavoe song, and then would write and recite a poem based off of the theme that is explored in those lyrics. I be the son of hardcore South Bronx Puerto Rican nationalists. An aguinaldo, bomba y plena salsa, rumba, singing actor, activist. Llevo el swing del sur del Bronx wherever I go, from the Seine in Paris to old San Juan's callejones. See, I was raised on a steady diet of Rafi Levy La Selecta, KRS-One, The Doors, Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, y música de protesta. I am the tree that grew from the seed planted by Ruben and Willie so many years ago. Siembra. I am Juana Peña and Pedro Navaja's illegitimate child. I am salsa. I am hip hop. I am Puerto Rico. I am the South Bronx. I am New York City. And my name is Flaco Navaja.
Perfect example of what I mentioned, where how you like meld these different disciplines together, these different arts, which I think is really interesting. And then how did you end up going into acting after that?
It's interesting. My 18th year was a very tumultuous time, and it was also the birth of this persona, Flaco Navaja. So around the same time that I started going to open mics and kind of doing that, navigating that spoken word world, I started meeting a lot of people. And one day I was at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe in the Grand Slam finals. So, and the legendary Nuyorican Poets Cafe every Friday had a spoken word slam, which was a contest, a competition where people select 5 poets, let's say, would get it would be like 3 rounds, and the audience gives them scores. They're like judges pick from the audience, and they get scores, and it's a pretty prestigious deal. And there are slam competitions all over the country. So the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, when I first started doing poetry, I got kind of thrust into this slam world, and I progressed and ended up going to the Grand Slam final. And at that performance, this dude came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm a member of a theater company called Theater for the New City, and we have a street theater show, musical, that we perform every year." And so the dude says, "Hey, I'm a part of this company, and we have a street theater musical that we are going to do this summer, and we're having auditions tomorrow. You should come." And I was like, "All right." So I remember the day clearly because it was the summer, the day of the 116th festival. It was Puerto Rican weekend. Because I remember going to the audition and then going uptown to 116th Street. And so that was my introduction to theater. That was my first theater experience. I auditioned for this thing. I got this role, and it was a perfect introduction to this because it was like a crash course.
So I gotta ask you, do you get stage fright?
I don't get stage fright. I get nervous. Yeah, I get butterflies. I feel like, as cliche as this may sound, if you lose the moment when you don't feel that anymore, it's time for you to quit. And the times that I didn't care showed. The times
Oh.
that I got on that stage thinking that I am bigger than the circumstance and I'm bigger than my calling,
Mhm.
that's a recipe for disaster. And I've had
That's
some of those.
I like that. That's interesting because sometimes we think that we associate nervousness with with failure, and it's all a mental thing. I've heard so many times take that energy, that nervous energy, and be happy with it, make it positive. That's a good way of seeing that. I like it. All right. So I'm going to ask you another question. The first year of COVID pandemic was challenging for all of us, especially artists who depend on the public. You used the time to release your single, Cántale a la vida. During such scary times, what inspired you to write that salsa song?
As artists, we have a responsibility to contribute to the overall narrative of our communities, the overall narrative of the world, of our year, of our time and space in this time, right? I didn't want to contribute to more of the negative. It was we were going through a pandemic. We were going through a super political time with uprisings on both sides, with police violence, with also like super oppression, and things like that. And at the same time, I just felt grateful that I was alive. Like, let's sing a song to life, you know? And the way the song came together was super magical. So I had never written a song before. That's not true, but I don't fancy myself a songwriter. It's not in my wheelhouse per se. Um, but during the beginning of this pandemic, I had this melody in my head. And it wasn't just like a few notes. It wasn't just like a phrase or something. It was a fully thought out song. Just no words. But like it was clear, verses, bridge, like then the chorus comes here. You know what I mean? But it was like something I was just humming all day. All day. So eventually I'm like, I gotta do something with this. And I reached out to a friend of mine who happens to be an amazing singer songwriter, Latin Grammy nominee, like Puerto Rican powerhouse by the name of Obi Bermudez. Obi Bermudez, super cool
Yes, I
dude.
know him.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And so I call him for advice. I approached him with the proverbial chicken or egg question. Like when you're working, does the melody come first? Do the lyrics come first? And I'm hoping and praying for like a simple answer that's gonna clear my like fix the problem. But that didn't happen. Like he was just kind of like it depends. Sometimes I get the melody, sometimes I was like, thanks. But then I end up sending him a voice note with this melody that I have in my head. And I was like, yeah, I got this in my head, man. And I think I wrote the first four lines. And I was like, yeah, I got this in my head, man. And this is what it is. I got the whole melody, but I wanted it to be about kind of like what's going on now. And it was like, necesitamos amor, necesitamos cariño, aunque sea de lejitos, para proteger los viejitos, something like that, right? And then I just continued to hum the rest of the tune. It must have resonated with him because 2 days later, he responds like a day later and he's like, man, this is really nice. Would you mind if I wrote with you on this? And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
I want you to, let alone mind.
Pretty cool shit. Like, I don't know, bro. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So then a couple of days after, he sends me back like almost like a fully constructed tune. Like we went back and forth and edited some things. And then I added like the coro soneo section at the end. So now we have this thing, this tune, and we need music to put in. I was living at the time I was living in Los Angeles, in Long Beach, California. So I had a West Coast version of my band, the Razor Blades, with some amazing LA musicians. One of them being a legend by the name of Eddie Resto. Eddie Resto is a bass player who, as a kid, played and toured with Charlie Palmieri, Eddie Palmieri. The list goes on. And he's such a kind soul, and an awesome individual. So I sent him what Obi sent me, right? And I was like, hey man, I want to do this somehow. I need an arrangement for it. What do any advice? So he's best friends with another legend by the name of Oscar Hernandez. Oscar Hernandez is the band leader of Spanish Harlem Orchestra. But he was also original member of Ruben Blades' Seis del Solar.
So like legendary.
Miguel's eyes are shining. I can see it right there.
I love Ruben Blades.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got stories of Ruben as well. And so, yeah, man. So Eddie was like, call Oscar. There's a pandemic. He's not performing anywhere. You know what I mean? He's probably bored. and I was like, and think? He's like, yeah, just call him and send him the stuff. Sent him the stuff. It must have resonated with him as well. And a week later, he sends me back charts, sheet music, full arrangement of the tune.
Wow.
And completely for free. It's not like I had a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't qualify for one of those PPP loans or whatever. So
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I didn't either.
So yeah, man. So he sent back the thing. So this was a completely pandemic production, independent pandemic production. None of us were in the same room at the same time. So then once I got the arrangement, now I started making my phone calls to my musician friends. And yeah, my trombone player was in New York. Piano player was in LA. Eddie did the bass in LA. I did my vocals in LA. Background singer Kiani Medina, who happens to be the daughter of another legend named Jerry Medina from Puerto Rico. And she did coro. She was in PR. My trumpet player was in Mexico. Yeah.
Wow.
Mixed and mastered in New Jersey.
So all virtual, like everybody virtually came together. Wow.
Yeah. Big shout out to my boy Jonathan Gavidia, who played congas and also helped me with like producing it in the sense of keeping all the files organized, because like I was sending people different files and then it wasn't kind of like working. I was like, why is
did you like send like a bass melody to each person so that they could listen to while they were playing?
Yes. Yeah, we did like the piano and like programmed drums.
Okay.
And yeah, we had like a basic bass. And yeah, and then we just added everybody submitted their files. We added it up. At the end, I did vocals to a almost finished track, pretty much, and then we released it. It was a great experience, and it was just a testament to artists wanting to do things, a
Yeah.
testament to the resiliency of our people. And it was a blessing and an honor for me to have these people in my corner and believe in the material enough to, yeah, to share their blessing, their talent.
Elele, alala, necesitamos amor, necesitamos cariño, aunque sea de lejitos, pa' proteger los niñitos.
Yeah, it must have been an amazing way for you guys to all really connect with each other in a time that it was really difficult to.
Absolutely.
I know the audience is probably gonna really want to know a bit about your experience in Def Poetry Jam and how that helped your career and your ideas about it in general.
Def Poetry Jam was an amazing experience. When I started out doing this, I didn't have a bigger picture, an end goal. I didn't have this foresight of the possibilities. So when Def Poetry came around, first of all, when Def Poetry came around, I already had maybe 6 years in the scene.
Oh,
So
okay.
Def Poetry was a validation for us. It's like finally people see what it is that this scene is all about. And it was also super cool because it connected each regional scene. Now we're saying, "Oh, it ain't just about Nuyorican. There's a whole scene in Chicago. There's a bunch of poets that are rocking out there. There's a bunch of poets that are rocking in Atlanta and in LA. They got their own style, and you know what I mean." And it was like,
Yeah.
it was super cool for us as artists to be acknowledged on such a grand scale to yeah, and for the rest of the world to be exposed to something that we felt was like a niche kind of thing. And now all of a sudden it's national and international. That was a great experience. And then after, performing in the television show, then they created a Broadway version of it. It goes to Broadway. They win a Tony Award, which is unheard of, especially at the time. Like this multicultural cast of poets that aren't pulling punches, and they're on Broadway, the Great White Way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they win a Tony Award, albeit it was in a category that was very eclectic and interesting because it wasn't a play, it wasn't a musical, so it was in the category was like best theatrical presentation. So they were up against like Phyllis Diller and like like maybe Billy Crystal or some shit, which is it's amazing. Also, they got to perform at the Tonys on Times Square. So this was like a big deal. Like it was validating, right? So they do the Tony thing, and now they're embark on an international tour. I wasn't in the Tony Award. I wasn't in the Broadway show. One of my best friends, Lemon Anderson, was one of the original cast members of the show, and he's also responsible for me to be on the HBO series because from the beginning he was always championing me in the sense of like, you need to call my boy Flaco. Like, I don't understand why you don't have, and they did. So I did a couple episodes, whatever. So when the tour comes around, Lemon wasn't going to go on the tour because his daughter was about to be born and he didn't want to be away during that time. one of the other cast members wasn't able to go on the trip. So Lemon decides to go on the trip. They're like, you have to go. He's like, okay. So they called me. So I ended up going on the trip with Lemon as opposed to going on the trip to replace him. We ended up going and we spent a month in Edinburgh, Scotland, and the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We did a week in Sydney, Australia for the Sydney Festival. These are huge international theater festivals. We did a week in Auckland, New Zealand. Like, who would have thought when I wrote that first poem that I ever wrote, I would never have imagined being in Australia kicking poetry with Nicole Kidman in the audience. You know what I mean? And so if there's anything I have to say about deaf poetry is that it brought me across the world, the globe.
What kinds of artists influenced you when you were growing up?
Oof.
I knew it. It's a long list.
I already mentioned my older brother Hector, and his influence on me. He was the first poet that I ever saw perform poetry, and he opened up my world to the Nuyorican poetry movement, and really kind of opened the door that led to me being here right now having this conversation with you. My first musical inspiration is Hector Lavoe. I loved Hector Lavoe. There was something about his voice that drew me early on, without kind of delving into the social context of the times that he was living, without really realizing his status in the world. I just loved these songs.
Yeah, I know my mom's eyes are lighting up now because she loves Hector Lavoe too.
Oh man, yeah.
Periódico de ayer, Mi Gente.
Great song. No, he has an extensive catalog, and he was just an amazing character. Like I tend to say he was kind of like Elvis mixed with like a comedian, and yeah, he was amazing. Ruben Blades. I mean, my name is Flaco Navaja. The way I got the name Flaco Navaja was I was a kid, about 10 years old or so, and I at the time was I was loving Ruben Blades tunes, and I was singing Pedro Navaja to myself, and my best friend's father, my boy Tommy, his father Heriberto Colón, may he rest in peace, saw me singing Pedro Navaja, and he goes, mira este, Flaco Navaja. And then flash forward 10 years or so, about, if I was 10, maybe I was 9, flash forward those years when I do that first poetry open mic, the name came to me. And so my real name is Osvaldo Rivera. And growing up, teachers butchered my name. So it's nerve-wracking enough to get up on stage and do something that you're not comfortable doing, let alone have someone butcher your name beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't want that to happen. And I walk up to the open mic list, and Flaco Navaja came to me. And yeah, stuck ever since. So artists that have influenced me, I'm sorry. Hector Lavoe, Ruben Blades, huge Jim Carrey fan.
I can see that.
Huge. I used to love Jerry Lewis. I thought he was hysterical. Jack Tripper, John Ritter from Three's Company. So I grew up loving comedy. I'm the youngest of 5. So I got attention by making people laugh and things like that, you know? So those are the people that have influenced me early on, very much so.
Right. How do you incorporate your background, Nuyorican background, with your Puerto Rican heritage into your work?
There's no way I can't not. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not a conscious thing that I need to incorporate. It is who I am. And it informs the aesthetic, it informs the delivery. Uh, yeah. Like I said, when I first started doing poetry, it was so that I can sing. And so it's been a part of my artistic expression and mode of operations from the beginning.
When you say your poetry, even when you sing, you do remind me of Ruben Blades. I can see the similarities there. I can see like all the artists you're talking about in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of tribute.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like we are the sum of our experiences and also of our influences, good or bad. And Ruben has become a mentor of mine. And, you know, something I say often, ours is a charmed life. I really feel that way. Someone that chooses an artistic path and sticks to it are afforded opportunities and difficulties that others aren't. I've had experiences that you can't make up. You know what I mean? Like you tell someone this, I'm like, yeah, right, bro. You know, and it's like I can be going through financial distress and then remember like, oh shit, I gotta dig out this suit from under the closet because I'm about to go to a red carpet premiere of a film that I'm in, even though I gotta take the train to get there. You know, those are the type of experiences I've had. I've literally had that type of experience. And with Ruben, so you know, I get this name Flaco Navaja, embark on this artistic career as this person. And it's not a surprise that I love this guy's artistry. I mean, he's amazing, right? So flash forward some years, and I did this web series called East Willie B, which was an amazing Latino web series that I believe was ahead of its time, and it was great with an amazing cast. And the way it was created that the creators raised $50,000 in 50 days on Kickstarter to produce
Wow.
this show, and we ended up releasing 6 episodes. And it's amazing. You can see it on YouTube right now. East Willie B, Willie with a Y and the letter B. And it's a play on East Williamsburg, how the realtors were trying to change Bushwick, Brooklyn to East Williamsburg. And it's about, I play a bar owner who inherited the neighborhood Puerto Rican bar in Bushwick, and I'm struggling to keep it open in the midst of gentrification, all while trying to rekindle a relationship with its ex. Amazing cast. So around that time that I was doing this, we were trying to get interest with Latino celebrities, people that are status, and we're trying to get them to help spread the word or even be a part of it or something, And one of my good friends was working with Ruben at the time as like a tour manager kind of situation. And he happened to be in Puerto Rico with Ruben. I sent him the trailer of East Willie B and said, show it to Ruben, please. He shows it to Ruben. Ruben loves it and is like, I want to be in this. I like this. Call that guy. Call him right now. They call me. I was going through at the time I was not having a good day. There was something going on that I remember not answering his call. Arturo's my boy Arturo Martinez. Big shout out to Arturo Martinez Tito. He calls me and I didn't answer. I text him and I was like, yeah, I can't talk right now, bro. And he goes, listen to your voicemail. Okay. I check the voicemail and it's like a prank call. And it goes, this is the IRS. We know where you live. You think you can get away without paying your taxes? We're going to get you. Right? Something like that. And then he hangs up. Right before he hangs up, he goes, this is Ruben Blades. Click.
Are you kidding?
He's a comedian.
I literally cried. I was in tears. And then I called my boy Arturo back. And I end up having a conversation on the phone with Ruben. And a couple of weeks later, we were doing the premiere. We were doing like a red carpet premiere screening of East Willie B. And I invited Ruben, and he was like my date for the premiere. And I walk into the room with Ruben Blades. Everybody's like, "What is going on?" And it was a cool time. And he was such a he is such a gracious person. And since then, like, we've hung out. He brought me out on stage at Lincoln Center in front of, I don't know, 7,000 people without having heard me sing. He brings me out to sing El Cantante with him, which is just another kind of like the fact that he wrote the lyrics to El Cantante, and that's like one of the first songs that I love to sing with Hector Lavoe. It's just, yeah, man. So yeah, I love him. And
that's my favorite song, and I'm sure I would love to hear you sing that song, El Cantante.
Awesome. There's a video of me with Ruben Blades on YouTube singing it.
I will look it up.
Yeah. Live in Lincoln Center. Forget what year, but it was I was on cloud 17 for like a week, after that experience.
So the lesson is, if you get a voicemail that sounds like the IRS, listen to the full voicemail. Because it could be Ruben Blades.
All right, vamos a hablar de comida.
Awesome.
You know, I must talk about food because I believe that cooking a delicious meal is an art itself. So what is your favorite Latin dish?
Ooh, favorite Latin dish. I love my mom's ensalada de bacalao, like just like simple codfish with some aguacate and maybe papas and yuca and onions. That's that like dish.
Do you make that same meal dish for your daughter?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I haven't.
Is she missing out?
They are. I have two beautiful little girls.
Oh, okay.
But eventually I will. That's a goal. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what dish from the Bronx do you miss the most?
From the Bronx that I miss the most, a simple ham and cheese sandwich from the bodega.
Really? Oh yeah.
Yeah, that or like a bacon, egg, and cheese. Maybe a Bronx slice of pizza too.
Yeah. Do your pizza is the best.
I will say, now that I'm in Chicago, I do love Chicago pizza. And something I will say that I'm learning out here is like, as a New Yorker, I always associated Chicago with like deep dish pizza.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
It's not the case.
Oh wow.
Yes, there's deep dish pizza out here, but it's not like the go-to. The go-to
Oh,
is like what they call tavern style. So it's like thin crust pizza. Yeah, it's like
like the exact opposite.
the exact opposite. Yeah. Now I've yet to try the deep dish out here. I hear it's amazing, but the thin crust pizzas that I've had right now have been, I gotta give them props when props is due.
So last week on the show, we had the Ramirez brothers with us who own Bronx Beer Hall, and they juggle a ton of different businesses. But you also juggle a lot. You have actor, composer, spoken word artist, salsa singer. So how do you manage all of these different roles all at once?
I don't know if manage is the right word. Juggling, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't think if you can do something or if you enjoy doing something and you're good at it, I don't see why you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I've gotten that in the past where people have been like, you should pick a lane. I'm like, nah, I'll take the whole highway. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I can shift. I'll use my blinkers. Yeah, that is something. But I will say, I'm at my happiest on stage with a salsa band singing songs.
Oh, okay.
I'm at my happiest.
And actually, kind of going off of that, between going on stage for something like poetry versus a salsa performance, is there any differences in the way that you like prepare, like literally just minutes before that performance? How do you get is the energy is so different between like a salsa performance and a poetry?
The difference between doing like a poetry, psyching myself up to do a poetry thing, as opposed to singing salsa, is that I think it's a bit more somber, or you're by yourself kind of when you're about to get on stage for doing poetry. So I'm probably going over my poem in my head and making sure that like my the words are going to come out right and things like that. Whereas for a salsa event, it's more of a social kind of environment. It's less of a, I'm not the type of salsa singer that hangs out in some green room and then comes out when it's time. I'm I'm in soaking up the environment. I'm in the crowd. You know what I mean? Until it's time.
Yeah.
Then they're like, all right, we're ready. Oh, okay. Excuse me, I gotta go. It's just that energy is it feeds me.
Yeah. And tell us a bit about In the Heights, if you can. How was that experience for you?
That was crazy. So I was driving Lyft, and at the time I remember I was dropping someone off in Anaheim, California, and I get a random text message from Lin Manuel Miranda, and it's like, "Hey, Flaco." It was something like, "Is this Flaco's number still? This is Lin."
He's
Something
like,
like
new
that.
number, who dis?
Oh, yes. And yeah, so he's like, "Is this Flaco? This is Lin." I probably kicked the passenger out. I was like, just stop, get out of here. Like, no, yes. Yeah. Then I just called him, and I had interacted with Lin in the past in a couple of capacities. One, first of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge being a part of a group that pioneered the entire genre of hip hop theater. So when Lynn was in high school, we were performing at New York Theater Workshop, which is a off-Broadway theater responsible for Rent. And we were traveling all over as part of a group of a movement. There was a hip hop theater festival that was born around these times. So hip hop theater didn't, and I'm not throwing shade at Lynn in any way, but it wasn't born within the Heights. With that said, so Lynn kind of, when in the Heights, when he was about to leave the show, I was amongst the crop of people that were being seen to replace him.
Wow, replace Lynn.
Years later, when he was writing Hamilton, I was blessed with the opportunity to do the first 2 or 3 table reads of Hamilton when he was developing. Yeah. So we knew each other. Also, I played with my band. My band was hired to play his dad's 60th birthday party. You know? So I get this random text. I pull over. I call him. Yes, this is Flaco. Well, he's like, hey, man, as you know, we're doing the In Heights movie. And I wrote this song that's going to be playing in the background of a scene in the bodega that I think you'd be perfect to sing. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? And I was like, playing it cool again. I was like, I don't know, man. Let me think about it. And send me the material first, maybe. No, so I'm like, yeah. And then, then he puts me together with his music supervisor, and they end up booking studio time in Warner Music Group studio in downtown LA. I'm walking in that place, and there's like platinum records on the walls of Bruno Mars and all these other people that recorded in this place. I laid down the vocals on this track, and it ended up being in the movie. You have to listen very carefully because it's in the background of a scene on the radio. but it's there, and it was it was a cool experience to do so.
Yeah.
And then after that, I ended up getting a phone call from him again to sing the theme song of an amazing PBS Kids animated series called Alma's Way, which is created by Sonia Manzano from Sesame Street, Maria from Sesame Street. Yeah. And she created this cartoon called Alma's Way about a Puerto Rican little girl in the Bronx. And it's all about conflict resolution and thinking things through. And it's such an amazing show, a historic show, a necessary one. And so Lynn wrote the theme song along with his partner, Bill Sherman, and they wanted an authentic Bronx voice to sing it, and he ends up calling me. So I did that as well just a while ago.
Nice. Okay, before we let you go, we have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Favorite salsa musician of all time?
Oof, man. Come on, yo. All right, I'm going to say favorite salsa musician of all time. Musician, not singer. And that will be I will say Ray Barretto. Conga.
Ray Barretto. Barretto.
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
The best thing about growing up in the Bronx.
The best thing about growing up in the Bronx was being exposed to music and culture, and yeah, the best thing about growing up in the Bronx was the fact that it's the home of salsa, the birthplace of hip hop, and where my family lives.
Most admired Def Jam poet.
my most admired Def Jam poet has to be Lemon. He is my favorite poet. He is. I've seen his development firsthand, and his hard work. He took writing serious. I was more of a performer. I wanted to be on stage. I made a career out of having just like 10 poems. I just performed the shit out of them, excuse my language. So to see someone like Lemon cranking out quality material after quality material and taking his job as a writer serious. You can't be a writer if you don't write. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I admire of Lemon.
Favorite city you've traveled to?
Oh, that's a great question. Favorite city I've traveled to right now? Chicago, Illinois.
Is Lin-Manuel Miranda as nice as he seems?
Yes.
You sure?
I don't know. I've had positive interactions with him.
Yeah. Most underrated Puerto Rican dish?
Most underrated Puerto Rican dish. Oof. Come on now. I will have to say, man, I don't know. Pasteles? It took me a long time to like them.
Yeah, me too.
I think it was just like visually, it just wasn't like.
Yeah.
It's not appealing, no.
I hated them when I was a kid, but I tried them recently and I actually really liked them.
Me too, man. It's one of those things that it was like, it got a bum rap.
3 words to describe the legacy you hope to leave.
Oh, wow. Humble. 3 words to describe the legacy I hope to leave. I hope to be remembered as an awesome father. I hope to be respected as an artist and labeled as an inspiration. And I hope to be an example of possibilities.
I love it. Well, you're an inspiration for me, just so you know.
Thank you.
You are. I mean, like, this whole interview was really inspirational. I love how you were able to do what you did out of all the odds of, I grew up in the Bronx and I could say I felt limited, but you didn't see yourself limited. You felt there was so much to offer. That's amazing.
It comes from, it's a testament to my parents, I have to say. I'm the youngest of 5, and on paper, I come from an exceptional family.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of More Than Rice and Beans, and a special thank you to our guest today, the legendary Flaco Navaja. You can learn more about Flaco's music and poetry by following the links in our show notes.
Thank you to everyone who has supported us this season by leaving reviews and dropping us a tip at our Buy a Coffee link. Your support means the world to us. If you're ever in New York, I hope you meet me for a cooking class with Koki the Chef. Head to kokithechef.com to view our class schedule, purchase authentic ingredients, and more.
We'll see you here next time on More Than Rice and Beans.